Welcome to Buried Talent, the show for young professionals that tears down false beliefs about faith and work so you can unbury your God-given talent right where you are. I'm Ken Freire, and I'm here with my co-host, Patrick Lowndes, and today we're talking about the harsh truth HR won't tell you. Because the reality is, there's a lot of you who have applied to dozens, maybe hundreds of jobs, but heard nothing. And you fear that silence leaves you with self-doubt, frustration, and you feel like you're in a waiting season. And here's this false belief that you get that if I don't get a call back, I'm not valuable. And we hear this time and time again where people feel like they are not worth anything because they're not getting the call back. So that's what we're going to talk about today, Patrick. I'm super excited for us because first we got to unveil the problem, right, for people. And if we don't unveil the problem, they don't know the solution for it.
And it's not like you submit that resume and you go dark and then you wake up the next morning and you're just like, completely crushed that, they didn't even call me back yet. Cause then you have to wait weeks and days turn into weeks. And so it's not necessarily one opportunity, right, that you feel this with, but many times it is the culmination of many attempts. And what the enemy loves to do, enemy of your soul, is he whispers into your ear and says, hey, you're actually not that valuable, or you haven't really worked hard enough, or you're not good enough. And like there's this is like a crushing psychological thing that I think the enemy is trying to use in our heads, and it like buries our confidence, right? Like this whole show, the reason we call it Buried Talent is because we're trying to unbury your God-given talents. And so as you can tell, we're coming in hot on this episode here. So buckle up is all I got to say, Ken.
Well, and that's the reality too, because I remember when I was younger, man, I just struggled. I was like, do people not like me? Am I not good enough? Do I not have the skill sets? And the reality is that today, what we're going to talk about is 5 harsh realities that is causing you to not get that callback. So let's jump in. Let's get real practical for people on why they're not getting a callback. So Patrick, what's for number 1?
Yeah. Well, we'd be remiss not to bring the obvious thing up, which is your number 1 is your resume never made it past the algorithm. Yep. You might be like, give me some stats on that. Well, you probably already know this by now, but 98% of Fortune 500 companies, they're using applicant tracking system and ATS. And check this out. This one kind of shocked me when I saw it. Only 25% of resumes make it past the ATS to a human reviewer. Like 25%. So that means 75 out of 100 applications don't even get to a human. Like you're only being rejected by the algorithm is the takeaway here, right? And so as you might imagine, there's a whole lot of things and strategies for how to not get rejected by the algorithm. But this is an ongoing kind of a hot topic right now in the talent and human capital tech space, is like, to what levels of bias are these algorithms actually bringing into the process? But this is a harsh reality, Ken. So like that's number 1 is you actually didn't even get to a human. So like, don't feel bad if the algorithm didn't pick you, is kind of the first reaction to that first harsh reality.
Yeah. Well, and let me just comment on that too, is that I used to oversee HR for a certain part of the university, a lot of the student HR department. And we used to implement these types of algorithms in ATS system to kind of more filter where would people go. And then when I left and I was a CEO of a company, I implemented an ATS system. And I remember looking through some of these applications that got denied, and they were actually way better than other applications. And you may say, well, it all comes down to how you set it up, right? Because the algorithm is set up between what you put, the criteria.
Yeah, how you prompted, all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I remember we were saying, hey, they need at least 5 years of experience in certain aspects for the job. But then I remember looking at other people who only had 3 years of experience, but the results that they brought to the company were like triple, sometimes quadruple more effective than the one who had 5 years of experience.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to say, hey, the ATS, this episode is not about like, hey, the ATS systems are miserable or horrible or anything like that. It's just being aware that like there are certain biases or there are certain credentials that people put that will automatically disqualify you, that if you're not using the right keyword, not using the right language,
Yeah.
they're just going to throw it out the window. So you have to be aware about that. Let me talk about the second reality. The second reality is that kind of, I alluded to this, but you look like everyone else, right? Your resume is really generic. It's blurred into a sea of you're using the same language of you're being a team player, you're a hard worker, and you're motivated by individuals. But the reality is that the average corporate job receives 250 applications. Just think about that. Imagine 250 people in a room applying for the same job, and you're using the same language. Of course, people are going to be aware of you or pay attention to you. So you have to make sure that you're not invisible. You need specificity in your life. You need stories. You need metrics. You need a unique voice to actually break through to this. And this is where I would actually encourage you, for all of you who are checking this out, right? That one, this podcast is here to help you, right? So that if you're trying to figure out how can I figure out my unique voice or breakthrough, man, like and follow this podcast, because we're going to always be giving you tips on ways to improve your God-given talent. But the second thing too is just like make sure you have a community of people who can actually speak into your life so that they know, hey, you know what? This is not you. You could actually say this better.
Yeah. Yep. And what we like to talk about this concept of like your portfolio. So, like a graphic designer or like even an artist, they're really good at like, hey, just like check out my portfolio, see what I've done. And it's cool. Like you flip through like, oh, you painted that cool thing or you designed that cool website. But what's ironic is that a lot of people coming out of the business school with like marketing backgrounds or, finance or accounting backgrounds or sales backgrounds, sometimes it's harder to talk about what you've done to make you look different from the other 250 finance, grads or early in career people. Like, how do I look different? And so one of the ways to think about that, we're gonna tease this more on the next episode. So just stay with us. But we're gonna also in the community work on this thing called portfolio building. So even while you're still in school, maybe you are in your first job or two, you're like, I've only done this one thing. I kind of need to look more impressive. I need to get more experience. We're going to help you build out your portfolio. But that's the second point. You look like everyone else. Okay. So don't look like everyone else. Come up with something different. And again, more stuff is coming on the next episode for ideas on this. But here's number 3. Again, the reason why HR is not calling you back is you didn't network. That's number 3. And they might have hired somebody who did. Again, some of the stats on this are pretty crazy, but a lot of roles are filled with either internal referrals or pre-existing relationships, right? And it never, yes, there's laws about having to have a job available for 3 days, 7 days, whatever, and they got to take in multiple applicants. But check this out. Only 6% of the applications that are submitted via referrals, okay, so very small amount, but check this out. Those referred applications, they account for 37% of the hires, which is bonkers. So more than 1 in 3 of the hires are from people that get referred. And so if you start,
that's huge, man.
That's massive. And yes, I know if you're thinking about this and you're like, man, what's my way in? Do I know anybody? You're probably already doing this. When you go to a company page, is checking LinkedIn for second tier, third tier potential connections and saying, hey, would you be able to kind of maybe put in a word for me? Like, tell me that you know me. Like, maybe you have to get known first. And like, can I tell you about who I am? And maybe you went to the same school and you got, an alumni there at that company. But you need to think about how am I building my network? So we'll talk a lot about this on the next show when we're talking about building your network out. And there's like a bunch of ways to do this. But that's a shocking fact, Ken, right? What do you do with that?
Yeah, well, there's this famous quote that is like, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know.
That's right.
And to be honest, I think every role that I've ever gotten, it's all been because of my network.
Yeah.
I never applied for a job and was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, and just came up and because it never worked. And right now in 2025, gosh, there's so many people who are just struggling, trying to find a job. Not even just out of college, but just like I know directors, VPs, executives, they're like, it's just become more and more difficult. So if you don't have a network that you can rely on to kind of help you connect with, you're going to hit a wall. So, which leads to the fourth harsh reality. is that your digital presence raised a red flag. Now, this might not be for everyone, but just be mindful that HR and recruiters will Google you. You have an online presence and they're going to confirm it. And if it, one, contradicts your resume, that's going to be a red flag. So hopefully you're not lying, you're living a life of integrity. And at the same time, they will also look at, are you an individual who they would actually want in the company that fits their culture, fits their values, and you would represent the company well. If your Facebook or social media accounts, or LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever, is showing you partying all the time and out doing ridiculous things, people may start to wonder, is this person dependable? Are they trustworthy? Are they just going to want to party? You want someone who's reliable. Here's a stat: 98% of companies use social media in hiring and thinking about their brand. So if your brand could look more like their brand and what they want, you have a better shot at actually going through the process and getting accepted.
Yeah, can I jump in on this? Because
Yeah.
it's not to say like, oh, I got to change my LinkedIn banner to kind of match their branding. We're not saying like mimic necessarily their brand, but what we're saying is like, for example, if your LinkedIn is empty or it's weak, or again, like if you're just coming in from your first job and you don't really have much on there, they're reading into that. They're reading into the fact that, yeah, you might have a couple volunteer things, but maybe there's not a lot of example or proof that you're going to be able to execute for the job that they want to execute on. So again, there might be a lack. There could be a lack of things let me say, of evidence, a body of evidence to kind of help justify what you're bringing to that job. So let's go to the fifth point. Again, harsh truths about why HR is not calling you back is they don't think you actually want that job. Now, some of you are like, wait, Patrick, hang tight there. Hold up. Wait a minute, right? But let me tell you, if I'm going to say something and you might be like, yeah, that's me. If you've just taken your resume and taken a cover letter and thrown it into GPT and boom, just kind of lazily thrown it out there, boom, pop it in that one. Okay, on to the next one. If you've done that, you're obviously like not putting a lot into it, right? So someone who might be really preparing and thinking about this would really take the time to say, is this hitting the points for what this specific role is interested in? And so if you've kind of just thrown stuff out there and your application looks like you kind of just mass sprayed across a bunch of job boards and a bunch of different kinds of, let's say entry-level finance jobs or entry-level sales or whatever jobs it is, they're probably going to pick up on that, right? And I would venture to guess the algorithm is probably like, ooh, yeah, we've seen a bunch that say just the same thing. I wonder how much right now algorithms can easily sniff out other algorithm generated stuff. So
for sure.
If you really want it, you have to show that you are not only intentional with your cover letters and the details on your resume and your application, but that you think about what that company is trying to accomplish. We talked about this a little earlier on a previous show about what are the company's goals? How are you helping that company achieve their goals? And really, what is the mission and the vision and the values that they have? You want to be able to demonstrate how you've already been doing that. And if you don't take the time to even know what those are, you're going to just be like everybody else, right? And they're going to skip past you. So those are the five harsh truths that why HR is not calling you back. But we're going to break this down for and finish it up on this episode here. Ken, what do you got to kind of bring us home?
Yeah, I want to leave with some hope. As some of you are thinking about this, these 5 realities may sting, but they aren't the final verdict on your value, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
They're not about who you are. There's just things that you need to work on, like anything else. Right? It's a new skill set they're doing. Think about it in the Bible. David was overlooked by Samuel. Joseph was stuck in prison and got overlooked. Time and time again throughout scripture, you see people who were overlooked, but God saying, hey, your value is not tied to what you do. Yeah. So remember, your identity and your value and worth is not found in what you do. You're not a human doing, you're a human being. As a child of God, if you have been redeemed and born again, you already have someone who gave you perfect performance and acceptance on your behalf. Amen. And the reason I bring that up, this is so important, is that when you hear those no's, don't let those no's reply or silence you and bury your confidence, because your confidence doesn't come from what you do. It comes from whose you are. And you're a child of God. And he's going to find the door. He's going to open the door for you. You've got to put the work in it, right? You got to do the things.
Yeah.
But make sure you don't falter and not lose heart, because man, the door is going to open. You're going to find the right thing. You just got to work a little. It's a different skill set that you might not have learned how to do.
That's right. And we're gonna give you a little bit more hope, because the next episode, just keep listening here. If you're on lunch or something, or working out, just like binge right into the next one, because we're gonna right now hit on 7 hacks to finally get that callback. So as you're about to jump in to listen to that, we welcome you into it. But if you're like, man, I got to just spend more time and like dig in on some of this stuff, we've got a place to do that. Unlike a lot of podcasts where you never really get to interact with the host or any advisors or mentors, we actually create a space to do that on our operator community. So if you haven't checked that out yet, we'll put that in the show notes, but it's a free community. Jump on in, and you can find other young professionals either in college or a couple years out of college into their career, trying to help each other out to be faith-driven in our orientation. So jump into that next episode, and we'll give you 7 hacks to get in that call back.